welcome back to another episode of the Digital Gold Dust podcast. We are continuing our season theme of setting business foundations. Um, and what we thought would be really nice is actually to bring that to life through a bit more of a kind of practical chat around what that looks like, what that means, the process around it, and the outcomes from it. So we're really pleased to have a lovely guest with us today to chat through what it was like working with us, what it was like to get her business off the ground, and spend some time working through those business foundations that we've been talking about in various or focusing on in various different episodes. So I'll hand over to Lee to give our guest an introduction.
Well, it's a real pleasure to introduce you to Anne, who is one of our joint clients, and now has the catchy subheading of being the human shell cracker. She is an anxiety therapist for women who want more freedom and fun in their lives. Her work is all about coaxing you out of your protective shell so you can be fully yourself in the world. Anne believes that when your anxiety is soothed, your nervous system is regulated, and you have someone you can trust in to explore all your quieter thoughts, as well as the racing ones, you can finally start to live your life by choice. And that it's so important to have a warm, cozy, safe space to explore your secret dreams and imagine a different world for yourself. Because she suspects you haven't had that sort of space before. Now you do. It's time for you to feel safe to emerge from that shell. And with ongoing one-to-one online therapy, that's what you'll be able to do. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you.
Well, really glad to have you here. So I guess if we maybe bring a bit of context in terms of sort of how we came to work together and how Anne fits into the kind of digital gold dust theme. So I guess Anne, you came to me first. So you were recommended by someone we both know, Claire. And I guess you were kind of at that early stage, weren't you, of thinking about launching your therapy practice. You hadn't quite got your qualification, but you're in that sort of last throes of
Yeah, I was, but I'd done a lot of research already. So my course was 3 years. And so I had already, probably by year two, kind of flagged that the course didn't prepare you in any way, shape, or form for starting up in private practice. In fact, it was the opposite. And so I'd already started to look at a lot of therapy sites in my spare time, looking at what I liked, what I didn't like. And some of them were really nice and some of them really drew you in. But once you hit the language, I recognized it. It was psychodynamic, psychotherapy language. And I was like, oh gosh, that doesn't feel good if you're reading it as a client. So I was really happy when I came across your site through the person we know. And I think I'm not imagining this, but you have something about Lee on your website. Did you? A copywriter?
Yeah, I mentioned.
And I was like, yes, that's it. Right. Okay. So I loved your work anyhow. And then I saw Lee and then I went to her website and I thought, yeah, this makes complete sense. These guys know each other. They both have great websites. They're exactly what I was looking for. So yeah, it was a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, come and chat to us, find out more.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you touch on a really, really important point, and I think something that a lot of people will resonate with is the language. You saying when you were looking at other therapy sites and how when you're going through that training and you can understand when you're having to write, for your exams, for your tutors, for your coursework, that the language is different. You're writing in a different way, and this applies to, I think, um many sort of careers. We hear a lot the same with nutritional therapists. It's kind of more science-based terminology, very heavy on that, and less relatable for your audience and for your potential clients. And it's amazing that you kind of clocked that so early and already were sort of thinking like that's not quite how I want it to be coming across, and recognizing that obviously you need to connect with those people and that they're going to understand what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And the clients I was seeing were really well educated clients, on my placements, and they it was part of a postgraduate university, a student counselor, but they didn't understand what therapy was. They didn't understand what I was doing. They used to come asking for homework. And, it seemed like nobody had an idea what this therapy was about, So I just thought, if I was that client and looking at a website, I would want to be able to kind of get drawn into it, not just by the imagery, but also by the language. I need something that I can connect to. Yeah. So where am I now in anxiety? And what will make me read and go, oh, oh, yeah, this person gets how I feel, right? That's what I was looking for. And I kind of knew I didn't have the skills for that myself. Like, and I just don't have that skills in language. So I knew it was going to be somebody else's job. Like I needed to find someone to do that, to kind of invest in that as part of growing my business.
Yeah, I remember in our initial kind of conversation, like the connect call, just to kind of chat through what you needed and what the kind of brief was. And obviously we're talking about the kind of, practical things like the website. You wanted it nice and simple and easy to navigate for your clients, for them to feel like literally, as you just kind of demonstrated, like that they could take a breath. If they're already coming from feeling very anxious or in that position in their lives, that they want something just that's going to make them feel calmer and instantly kind of breathe that sigh of relief that there's someone, as you say, who gets how they feel. And I remember you saying about that you loved writing, but you needed help finding your voice.
Yeah.
Um, and and as you kind of said at the beginning, it's sort of like you, the therapist, is quite different from you, Anne. This is a business, and there is a brand identity that comes with it. Not to say it's um, not authentic, that, as you know, like we're very much for that sort of being a very genuine um values coming through the business, but actually they are different entities, and it can be a bit of a struggle to work out sort of what that is. So that's, straight away I was just like, Lee's definitely the person to help with getting those foundations down. And I think you sort of started working on that sort of mission statement and ideal clients, and sort of laying those initial foundations, which a lot of the project then flowed from that
Yeah,
ground.
it's great because, I mean, what did I come to you guys with? I want to work with anxiety, and I think I want to just work with women. Like, that was it. That was my brief in a way. Uh, and so it was about just you guys sitting down with me and going, well, what does that mean to you? Like, just going through it, and going and teasing out what was in my mind. Yeah. Because it was here, but I just, I thought about it, but then because I didn't have that business brain in the way, I was like, well, yes, it's anxiety, but what do I mean by that? And my brain would go off into psychodynamic kind of ways. Oh, well, maybe I'll work with this type, or, and actually you just guys just sat me down in your own lovely individual ways and go, come on, tell us what you mean. Tell us what you mean. Let me draw that out. Let me help me draw this picture. Help me design the website with your work. Tell me what's in your head. And you were both really skilled in doing that. Really skilled. Yeah. Because in my head, it was quite a model. it was quite a knotted ball of wool. And you've managed to kind of untie the knots really and create something from it. That's how, when I think back, that's how I see the process. Yeah. But in a way, and I do want to emphasize that was not stressful. That was great. I really enjoyed the process of it. It wasn't in any way. I never came out of the meetings with you guys feeling like, oh got so much to do, that pressure. There's nothing like that. I came out quite excited. I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And you gave me permission to feel excited about my business, which, I still am, and carry through. So
Mm.
That's all really nice to hear. That is obviously what we're here for. That is exactly what we wanted you to experience, but what we want anyone to experience who gets to work with us. There's a couple of things that you touched on there, and they sort of tie into each other. One of them being that you sort of thought you wanted to work with women.
Mm.
It's something I've seen clients struggle with a lot, and it was another one of those things that you sort of needed a bit of a permission slip to draw a line in the sand and say, I am specializing in supporting women. Um,
Yeah, I do remember that moment. It's really pivotal. And I, and it's such a simple thing. You think, 3 years of training, I would have worked my way through this stuff, but I couldn't give myself permission to do it. I couldn't, as you say, it was there and it was a desire and it was a want, but I couldn't quite let my voice say it out loud. And I could see I was skirting around the edges of it. And I can be really vague. He just said, well, you just want to work with women. And I was like, okay. And you said, I still remember, it's your business. You can do what you want. And that was like one of those moments I have with clients in therapy when suddenly the penny drops. Yeah, suddenly the penny drops. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I think when you're saying that, oh, I went through 3 years of training and I still hadn't got it, I think that ties back to what Sammy was saying, about the language that they teach you on the training. And again, I've seen this a lot with the likes of nutritional therapists. They train you that your modality can help everyone.
Yeah.
And of course, that's absolutely true. Everyone could benefit from therapy. However, how you choose to run your business and your practice means focusing down your vision a little bit more so that you have a very clearly defined audience that you're speaking to and supporting. But
Yeah.
they don't give you that on the training. They give you this modality is helpful for everyone, and here's how it can help everyone. And so then when you come to marketing, and in your case, obviously you've got support, but a lot of practitioners, they're trying to market to everyone still quite a
Yeah.
way down the road after finishing the training, because the training has told them the whole way through it can help everyone.
Yeah. And that's just how you're trained, right? And the focus is on your modality, how you practice, right? So mine is psychodynamic and so that becomes the focus. And when I was looking at the websites, that's what there was some niching, in certain areas, and there was a few that worked with women. But again, the language was all about, this is my modality. This is, and I could have completely understand that because that's how you train, that, and, you can it. But the idea that you could choose, yeah, that you have a choice, which is very much how I work in my work. Anxiety shuts you down. You don't feel there's a short choice. And yet there I was, not thinking there was a choice. That I had to work with everybody, even though my instinct was this is a group that I work best with. Yeah. So yeah, so having that conversation with you was really eye-opening, and I don't think I've looked back since. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's really, really common. And again, across different businesses where I think a lot of people, when they're, especially when they're starting out, almost feel like it's bad to turn somebody away or to not, I don't want to alienate anyone. I don't want to, feel like I'm not helpful to other people. But we always say that you still get to choose. So if somebody did approach you who doesn't fit you know, your ideal kind of client profile, so to speak, that doesn't mean you just say, well, no, I can't help you. It's your choice. If you think, well, actually, yeah, I could help you in this instance, then you can still take them on as a client. If you think, well, actually, I'm not best placed to, um, you know, I do my best work with this type of client, then that's okay too. And I think, yeah, it's not always obvious for a lot of people. They sort of feel like, oh, makes me a bad person if I say that I'm not working with a certain type of client. But as Lee said, you know, it's your business and you can run it your way. And it seems like a weirdly radical idea. We get
That's
confused.
so radical. Yeah. You also said to me, Lee, and this has proved to be true as well, that you may still get men who are drawn to you. And I have male clients, having said all that. And
Yeah.
it was through the website, through the copy, through the blogs that they came to me. They kind of wiped out the women bit, you know, and they really connected with the message, I think, you
Mm.
know. And because they connected with it, when I met them, I felt, okay, yeah, I can work with this. I can work with that. Yeah. So while the majority of inquiries I get are from women, one or two men have snuck in. I remember you saying that, and I was like, "Really? That will that happen?" And so the first time it happened, I laughed. I was like, "Ah, she was right again." So it's interesting. It's interesting around the messaging, you know, and what we created, you know, around that understanding. Oh, here's somebody that understands anxiety. Here's somebody that creates this really safe base in which to work. You know, so
Yeah,
yeah,
because there
advice.
was some there were some women specific phrases, but the
Mm,
overall
yeah,
piece and the overall feeling and positioning isn't especially gendered. It it's more that it's empathetic to a particular set of challenges, frustrations, and feelings that another person is having.
yeah,
Um, so I, yeah, without getting too into it's an energetic thing, which is just a bit much for some people. Um, I think it is more about the overall feeling. We do use more specific language in some places so
mm,
that it is clearer, and you do automatically pre-filter people who are not a good fit.
yeah.
But yes, it's great. Great. Not that I like being right, but I do occasionally like being right.
Not just once, but twice. Yeah, no.
I'm just going to sit here and be smug for the rest of the conversation.
You'll be the smug one in the corner. Yes. So that was, you know, and when I thought about that, you know, I thought, yeah, that's the message. That's what they're attracted to. That, and it allows them to filter out what they don't want to see, right? They didn't see the women bit,
Yeah.
you know, what they saw is, oh, this is me. This is me. I have built a shell around myself, yeah, protective shell. So, and yeah, and that's what's drawn them into the work.
Yes, it is very heavily. Before we talk about the shell, and how that's fed into the whole thing, because Sammy, you're going to have loads to say about the shell, I think. It was interesting, wasn't it? Because we got your ideal clients down and we got the mission statement most of the way there. But I think there was one phrase in it, that had come out of, I think, some testimonial stuff that you'd shared with me about your clients feeling that sense of having a sanctuary. And I think perhaps during one of our conversations, you'd made kind of a off the cuff remark about pillow forts. And so we'd initially had that line in there about it being you being kind of a human pillow fort for them to get into. And then with a little bit of back and forth, you're like, this isn't this isn't quite right. It's more, I'm a bit more direct than that. I'm a bit more, cracking people out of their shells type thing. And then expanded on that shell thing. And, um, and so then everything then started to spring out from there. So that the messaging then kind of built around this whole shell cracker thing.
I think again it demonstrates the power of working through those early stages and spending and how valuable that time is actually sort of thinking through those things. And as you say, it's, you're with your own thoughts all the time. And, we run our own businesses and we do the same. And it can be very hard to see the magic sometimes. And obviously that's what we're here to support do is, as you said earlier, and we were talking before we came on to record, is that, it's a mining process. And so it's like we just, you're giving us all this lovely information and we're just kind of filtering through and finding the treasure in there and kind of polishing that up and then sort of running with that. And so what was lovely with kind of working as a joint process with the kind of design and the copy and the messaging was that they, it's kind of a two-way street in a way, which is how we like to work because so much richness comes from that. And so when I read that mission statement, my mind was already, I mean, you see my notes are literally scribbles everywhere of like ideas and pulling out this theme and that theme, and obviously our conversations as well. Had some crossover with what Lee was bringing through to the forefront in that mission statement, and so that really helped guide the kind of creative visual side. Um, because we know when people land on a website, they often skim read. And
Mm.
so the visuals are a really strong element to kind of connect with that feeling of how they're feeling. It's really kind of, or how you want them to feel. And so the visuals play a really important part in helping tell that story that the messaging, it supports the messaging and vice versa. And obviously, when people kind of get that connection, that's when they then start reading in a bit more depth. And then that kind of real connection comes. And so you want them to be supporting each other. And so kind of this idea of being a shell cracker, it's kind of like, oh right, okay. Not wanting to be too literal, but how can we work with that? How can we bring that through in, a sort of subtle way? And so some of that imagery came through into the design and some of the icons that we used as like a little visual guide, those kind of little reference points that just become familiar with people. And it's a little reminder as they're moving through the website. So it kind of works on quite a sort of subtle level. Um, and I remembered a few things, and when we were talking together, of you saying about how you kind of guide your clients through the process and through that journey, and that quite a lot of your clients, might be set on a certain pathway, and that they get to a point where that pathway doesn't feel right. Maybe they didn't choose it, or maybe they just are in a different place now. Life has moved on, and how, you can kind of help guide them onto another pathway, and kind of this idea of the journey, the pathway, and these sort of weaving together um, was another element that I really wanted to pull through with the imagery. So it's um it's sometimes quite hard to actually put it into words, like how that all came about, because it is so much guided by feeling and sort of intuition. Um,
But weren't the colours and some of the design elements inspired by the fact that we were conscious of the shellcracker thing sounding a bit potentially violent initially, and that not obviously being Anne's approach at all.
and there with a sort of lobster.
Taking it off.
Yeah. Yeah, you could think of, um, it can sound like quite a violent thing. So it's definitely bringing through those calming elements. And that, it's without going into the territory of being cliche. I mean, as a therapist, I imagine most therapists would like their clients to kind of feel calm. Like you're not going to be sort of like, yeah, let's get them to feel a bit more agitated. Um, but you don't. What I always try and avoid is for that to become cliche or to become where you then just blend in with everyone else because that's not what's going to help you stand out. That's not is what's going to help you build that connection. So it's finding a way to, again, for those things to support the message that you're trying to bring across. Um, and so with that kind of seed connection, it was kind of like finding um the type of like a seashell, and I knew like kind of wanted the conch shell was like so good because it kind of had those spiky edges. So it was like your clients were a bit like, okay, don't touch me. I'm in here and I'm safe and I'm kind of curled
Regulated
away.
spiky nervous system. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
great.
kind of like, yeah, I'm my hermit crab hidden in my shell, and actually you're kind of there sort of coaxing them out, rather than, yeah, sort of a violent crack them open kind of thing. It was more of a gentle, um,
Gentle.
yeah,
And the lovely thing for me as the client there was I didn't have to do any backwards and forwards between the copywriter and the web designer. That I knew you understood each other. I knew you would get what Lee wanted and you would get what Sammy wanted. I could step back from that and just trust that you would work it out between you. You got each other. You get each other. You know how the other thinks and works. So for as a client, that freed me. I didn't have to be a translator between the two of you,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That was really important. I think that there was so much trust there that you understood each other. Yeah. That my nervous system around getting it was just like really there's no spikes there at all. I was rolling around in the sand. I was out of my shell, having a good time on the beach.
oh,
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah,
I think that's something to emphasize is how important that was for me. That I didn't find myself in between two different businesses. One person, well, what does this person mean when they say that? Can you get back to them? And it was just like it was very intuitive. I knew you guys would understand each other. Yeah.
yeah.
So
And you don't want to see our Slack channel.
No, you don't.
Busy. It's busy.
that's all. I don't need to see. You've got it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, lots of messaging, shooting backwards and forwards. And it is that kind of to really be able to deliver that sort of full holistic view of what does this sort of business identity and your identity as a therapist, what does this actually mean in the real world? How does that translate? Is why we love working together because, as you say, it takes the stress away from you. You haven't got to kind of communicate between the two. We work so closely, as you say, like, we kind of know each other's approach, which is why we came to work together so closely in the first place when we started chatting about our own businesses. And we were like, actually, we really work in a similar way and go to the same sort of depths
Mm.
um, with clients. And it's it's not just kind of the messaging and the visuals, we worked on SEO, and that was really important. How does that impact the copy? We don't want to lose um the feeling that we're trying to trying to put across, or the personality. And there was lots of toing and froing with like, okay, how can we use that? How can we make sure that, again, that business foundation is supporting you, that your website and your content, your blogs, can actually help you start to get um, some organic traffic and some eyes on your website, and kind of relieve some of that stress from you of, you know, getting going with everything. Um, so yeah, it was a fully rounded service with so many elements that play into it. But yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes.
And I didn't need to know any of it. It was great.
I think it's a real marriage of creativity and strategy, is I mean,
Mm.
because yeah, I could go off on, you know, tangents, creative writing, um, but then your site needed to be found.
Mm.
It's no good you having really lovely but not especially purposeful copy, and nobody ever finding it. So the SEO stuff that Sammy did really helped
Yeah.
anchor the creative stuff into something that's going to deliver results for you.
Yeah, and that's been really important. And again, that was something I hit when I started researching and thinking, oh, I don't know anything about this, didn't even know SEO, what is that kind of thing. So I did find out about it, and it, it was something both of you talked about. So you brought it into the conversation. It wasn't something that was being ignored. It was there. It was being thought about. And so I could relax again into thinking, oh, well, they've got this. Yeah, I don't necessarily need to use my brains, whatever brain space I've got left, to try and understand it, to work it out, which is what, I've seen other therapists do.
Mhm.
And I was always left, well, unless you're going to work in that area, find somebody who knows what they're doing. Why waste that space, right? Why waste that energy? As a therapist, time is money. Like, it's like all these businesses. So it's such a good investment to free yourself up from thinking about all that stuff if it's not your world, right? And it wasn't mine, and it still isn't. So, yeah, it was another thing off my shoulders that I didn't need to think about at the time, you know.
And it's it's important that when you get to that stage of launching your business, that that website is there to support you. And you'll be amazed with how many business owners that already have websites don't like to point people to their website. For whatever reason, it's out of date, it doesn't feel like them. They did a quick DIY job and, it doesn't feel quite aligned anymore. There's various different reasons, but I think it's again like just having that confidence of knowing like go to my website, you can get a feel for who I am, which you said was kind of is part of your sort of process ahead of the call is, you'll get a real feeling of what it feels like to work with me if you go and read my website.
Yeah, that's
That was
been so
amazing.
important, really important for me, but because it filters out, so if someone, oh, I've got a friend who, or someone or something, so I get recommendations, and I say, well, first port of call is my website. So once they read the website, and if they still want to work with me, then yes, get them to connect, and yeah, and they do, and because I'm confident that what's been created reflects me, who I am, how I work, right? That's it. I don't have any doubts or any about sending people to my website. In fact, I love sending people to my website. Have a look. Stop myself from saying, isn't it great? So, but it not only is it, it shows them that I'm serious about my business. For a start, I've invested in my business. Yeah, that this is a business. That's number one. And I think when I looked at a lot of people's therapist websites, because that's what I was looking at, I was like, oh, you've done this yourself, right? And fair enough, but I wanted something much more that said, oh, this person is in business. So that's, and they look at that and they know I'm serious about what I do. But then they also read it, they look at it, they get lost in it, they read the messaging, and then they come to me. So it's a filter in a way. So those who look at it and go, this is not for me, they don't bother. I don't waste my time. I don't have to have that call where, it's my time's quite limited, and so it filters out. So that's been great. And, and the feedback from it has been really good. People talk about the website in that first 15 minutes free call, whatever. Oh, I saw your website. I really liked it. And, and they take out bits that they like and they feed it back to me. So yeah, the message is going in, and that just gives you confidence, which is what you need when you're building, setting yourself up in business, right?
Yeah.
Any confidence is a win, right? So that's
Absolutely.
important, yeah.
Yeah, and
And
I think um, something that people might not necessarily think of when you're thinking of like whether you're doing it yourself, whether you're working with someone to do it for you, but like getting a website, getting those, practical, just sort of practical things of like, yeah, a way for someone to contact me. Um, it's not so obvious that actually some of that, the a byproduct of that and doing it well is the confidence. And obviously, if you're starting your, or any time in your business, if you've got that confidence, um, it's really going to help propel you forward and and that comes across to how when people interact with you, I think, very much so.
Because I mean, what we've done here is built a brand. It's not just a website, right? And I think that's the difference, is that I've worked with both of you to build a brand, to think about my ideal clients, to think about my mission statement first, and then the ideal clients. And it's all here I go again, Lee. It's almost every client that comes, I can match them some in quite a strong way to my ideal client. And I'm like, oh, she's done it again. Like, there's something there in them, in their story, that really kind of joins them to what we thought about as the ideal clients. Every single person I've worked with so far. And when I was thinking about coming on here, because normally I don't, it's a, it's a brief thought in my head. I don't really, but I thought, God, yeah, all that, she was right. Like, she was, I was like, it's there, and I think that's really important to pass on to whoever's starting up, in private practice, whatever business, that it actually does really work. Taking the time to really think about it, to really kind of, create your ideal clients. And I had three, because otherwise it's too vague, it's it was a really, when you see them sitting in front of you, it's a real moment, right? That all that work has paid off, right? So interesting, really interesting and really worthwhile doing. Really worthwhile doing.
and you had your first client within a week, 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
going live?
week. And I was like, it's too soon. This because in my head, it was going to be 3 years to build my business, right? Because I wanted to do it slow, and I still want to do it slow, and I have taken it slow. But yeah, within a week, I got my first client, and I was like, wow, where where did she come from? Like, I was really flabbergasted by it, actually. I just wasn't expecting it, and it's been pretty steady since. And as I say, I don't take on everyone that contacts me. Um, it, because I've got those, I know what I work with, I know what my strengths are, because I've built that, I've gone through the process with you, right? So the business is going really well. Really, it's not even what, 6 months? Not even 6 months.
Mm.
Amazing.
So I'm kind of, yeah, reframing how long it's going to take me. I'm like, maybe it won't be 3 years after all. Maybe it'll be a bit quicker, So it's been great, yeah.
Well, again, you get to choose, which is nice. Nice to have the choice that you've got the clients. And as you say, you can take on as many or as few as is right for you at the moment. And if you've got people that are connecting with it and resonating with it, then as you say, it's already filtering out a lot of people that wouldn't be the ideal sort and might be quite draining for you if you were to work with them. We want your business to feel fulfilling. And so I think that's where, as you say, that kind of filtering process can really help with
Yeah,
that.
as you say, I think draining is a good word because it doesn't drain your energy. You the clients I work with, I absolutely love. Like I look forward to seeing them. I look forward to doing the work, right? Which is not always the case. So I think in that sense, it's been great as well. That filter has worked. That I get to work with because everyone wants to work with what they're good at, right? Like there's, to if that's your skill, if that's what all my CPDs around it, it's what I read, so that's what I offer, right? And to have someone who needs that is great. It's a really good match, and it means that it, the women I choose to work with are the ones I can really help. They can really use what I have to offer. So that feels good,
Yeah.
feels good.
Yeah. That kind of bigger impact in the world, isn't it? Knowing that you're doing your best work and can have the biggest impact on others through that and helping them. Yeah, it's really.
We've all got limited energy. We've all got busy lives. We've all got stuff going on. So it's where do I choose to use that energy? Where do I choose to put that? Who do I choose to work with? So I think, and for me, I think that came out of working with you guys, working through that process. Yeah. So it was really clear in my head. Well, my ideal client. This is, and as I say, when you see them sitting in front of you doing the work, it's great. It's really satisfying.
Yeah, that's lovely. What are you looking forward to now in your business?
I think I'm looking forward to clearing some space to grow it. Because at the moment, there's still a lot of stuff around the business. So I, I think growing it, at a pace that feels right for me, maybe haven't done any marketing for it. So maybe working, start creating space so I can start to think more about the business again, because the business has grown so organically. I haven't really done a lot of thinking about it since I said goodbye to you guys. That feels terrible to admit, but I haven't. There's been so much going on around my life that some chosen, some not chosen. And and so I'm working towards the next few months just cutting ties with some stuff and just making space for it, and seeing what happens next. Yeah. So
Actually, it's actually really normal, to get into, okay, I've got my brand, I've got my website, I've got all this great, great business as usual. I've got clients. I mean, the having so many clients straight off the bat, that is kind of not that usual, but the getting your head stuck down and into kind of the minutiae and sort of forgetting a little bit about the foundational stuff that you've done, that's really quite normal. And it's one of the reasons Sammy and I stay quite close pals with most of our clients, because just having a conversation like this will tend to recenter you back into that. Plus, it's a really great time of year for recentering back into what you want to do,
yeah,
and where you want the business to go, as well.
I think when I was thinking about it this morning when I was out with my dog, and I spotted some shoots just shooting up out the ground, and I was like, well, I've probably been wintering a little bit,
Yeah.
like, and I can feel I can feel myself wanting to move it forward a bit more, to start thinking about it again in the way you guys helped me think about it. And so that does mean making space. So that's a bit annoying, but still got to do that. But yeah, I could feel, I could I was like, yeah, spring's coming, so now is the time to start. You've done the foundation work. The roots are there. So what's going to come up? And at the moment, yeah, because I don't just want it to be about getting more and more clients. That's not, I want it. Yeah, I want it to feel really comfortable. I want it to grow in a certain way, but I'm not quite sure which way I want it to grow. So I might need some help with that.
I think there's a lot to be said for wintering, personally, as a bit of a bear in a cave myself. Um, the advantage, of course, is that you've already preset all of the foundations. You've already done that core work. So when life inevitably happens and you can't 100% focus on the business growth vision and all of that jazziness, it's okay to focus on the other life stuff, because then you can come back and recenter on those solid foundations when you can.
Yeah, and I think I kind of always knew that when I always knew that this was the first thing to do, right? And that was it. Once you had that, you were kind of, as I say, it was the roots of what you were going to grow, and then you could take your time. I mean, there's part of me sometimes panic that and then I think, well, no, you've got clients, you've got more clients than you thought you were ever going to have. Like, in your mind that it was going to be really, really, really slow, right? You weren't, so yeah, I think I feel okay with it. I think it will come organically, I think it will just grow from the roots, from the work we've done. Yeah. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question, sorry. But yeah, but that's how my life is. So
Yeah, no, it's nice, and it's surprisingly quite early days for you. I think people listening will probably be surprised actually that, this business is, yeah, you're only kind of 6 months in. So I think,
yeah, and I think it, as I say, it's mostly come from recommendations. Yeah. So just people recommending me or mentioning me, or I did do one piece of marketing. I put it on a local Facebook group, one of the blogs, and that got some interest. It was the menopause blog. So yeah, that kind of resonated. So, and then I thought, oh, I could do more of this. And then I stepped back from it. I was like, oh, life kind of got in the way again. And the way my brain works, I really need to think about stuff and, to be sure about what I'm doing. So, but I've joined a, peer support, peer group, because one thing I realized working online all day by yourself, you need human contact. So I've joined a local peer support group, supervision with local counsellors. So that's lovely. So that's really nice as well. So yeah, it's just slowly.
um, I thought it'd be really nice. Obviously, running a business it can be quite stressful. I thought it'd be nice if you had any tips for how to kind of soothe anxiety for, I say, our listeners, but yeah, kind of as a business owner, as someone that's and inevitably, as we've talked about a couple of times, like life happens. We've all got things going on. As you say, some you choose, some you don't. It is we are human. So yeah, any kind of tips that you would like to share?
Okay. I I recognize that it's anxiety. So because it's anxiety, I know it's anxiety because there's always a catastrophic end to the story. So it's my head. It's like a bad B movie. It's going to be ending something terrible, right? So if I don't do this, this will happen, and it's never good, right? That's clue number one. So once I recognize that it's anxiety, I take my dog for a walk. I calm my nervous system down. I try and let go of the thought. Oh, there it is. Right, there's the story. I wonder what's triggered that. Wonder what's triggered my anxiety. What's triggered that story? And I can't, if I think about it, I can't, the anxiety in my back brain will just start chattering and it will give me a million and one reasons. So I take the dog for a walk, I go into the woods, I wander around, and then I come back and I front brain it. So that means I fact check it. Yeah. I write down, I think about what I've been told, my back brain's told me. Is that true? Is it true? And so there'll be a lot of chatter. Of course it's true. And then I'll write down the facts and I'll look at the facts and go, no, these are the facts. How do I plan my way out of this? Planning is quite a good way to get out of anxiety around businesses, particularly. Yeah. And who can I help? Who can help me in this? If I feel really stuck, where's my allies? Where's my support? Who can I reach out to? So Sammy, having you there in the background, I know if there's anything with the website, I can just go to you and send you an email. And I know you're busy, but I know somewhere along down the line you'll be able to help me. Same with you, Lee. So who's your allies? Who's helping you? And I think that was one of the things that came out from working with you guys, was that I didn't feel alone in my business. Didn't feel alone. I remember you sent me a little postcard with some hot chocolate very early on, and it was something like, the internet is better for your business. And I was like, I still got it. It's still posted somewhere.
Yeah. The internet is brighter with your business on it.
Brighter with your business, that's right. And I love that, because I just thought, oh wow, somebody is invested in my business. Someone's thinking about my business. So knowing that you guys were invested in what I was doing lowers your anxiety. So, it really did. And I think, for those who are building a business, build support around you. You can't do everything yourself, right? You just can't, and people try, and it builds anxiety and they get overwhelmed. Yeah. So there's two things there. One, what can you do in the moment, but also build support in. That's what I've learned, And I was not that person. I did everything myself. Like, I was Miss Independent. I never asked for help. So it's been a real experience. Like, now I come across, oh, who can I help with the marketing? Who can I do? So build support around you. Do what you do, which you're good at. But if you're not good at something, look at those who can help you, and see if they match with you. See if you're aligned with their values. Really important. So I don't know whether that helps. Hold on again.
Yeah. I think from that, what I've taken away is that I need to get a dog. So I can go on anxiety reducing dog walks.
Well, yeah, that's another story.
Yeah.
I reveal to the world my dog is the most anxious dog on the planet. And the reason I walk in woods by myself and not chat to him is because he can't tolerate anybody else in the world. But that's a different story for another time.
No,
but it's important, I sometimes tell clients to look out the window, just anything to distract, from the chatter in your head, which is telling you can't do this, you're rubbish, all that, stuff that lowers your confidence. Or it's overwhelming. Yeah.
And I think a lot feels overwhelming with life in general, and right now is, it only seems to be getting more so. So I think, having some of those moments, almost like, as you say, like, ground yourself a little bit before you make a decision or take any action.
Yeah, because mine's walking the dog. Yours might be just to stand up and stretch, do some stretching, or hoover the house. I don't know. Some movement is really good. We talked about that in one of our blogs. The movement to release adrenaline, cortisol from your body. Just even shaking yourself up is really just makes a difference. It just can sometimes switch that switch off.
Yeah.
And if our listeners decide that you're a good fit for them, they also should know that there is no expectations for them to put on a suit of armor to come to therapy. In fact, you are fully embracing of the PJs.
Absolutely. The PJs is a bit of a theme. I was saying that you'd be surprised because one of the things we talked about, Lee, wasn't it? It was that pillow fort that with online therapy, you don't have to get up. You don't have to get yourself to somebody's office. You can just get up, get yourself coffee if you've got an early morning appointment, and switch the link, and you're there. So quite a few people are in therapy in their dressing gowns, pajamas. I've had therapy with people from their cars, but the bedroom is a big theme. Somewhere comfy, somewhere surround, and quite a few of them have pillows around them. So it is about, yeah, people feel comfortable enough to. Where are you comfortable doing therapy from? You don't need to sit in a room opposite me. That's anxiety producing if you have to get up. If you're in an anxious state already, it's just another thing to do. What I love about online therapy is that you can just press that button and there it is, right? And it really works. It really helps the anxious mind to know that they don't have another thing to do. They don't even have to get dressed.
Yeah. And that was one of the little magical things that came out of one of the conversations when you said, I come to you.
Yeah.
And I actually remember messaging Lee saying, this has just come out of our conversation. This is really important. Just like a heads up when you have your chats that um yeah, again, getting that message across with clients that they can be turn up as they are, as you feel comfortable and
And it's
you
so different from the way we were trained and what the idea people have of therapy, because, you know, sometimes in our group work in training, we weren't even allowed to bring water, have a sip of water. It was against the frame, the rules, there's a lot of rules in how I was trained. And I just used to think, well, that just makes people stiff and anxious. And, if you want to drink coffee. Like someone was eating their lunch the other day, as long as they can still talk. Do what you do, right? If it's in your lunch break, and that means you can have this space, 50 minutes or an hour or whatever, then yeah, use it. So yeah, that people seem to like that, and they like the flexibility of how I work as well. The kind of They don't have to see me the same time every week. There's a flexible booking system. So all that works for working people, for my ideal clients. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, so obviously we'll put it in the show notes, but where can people find you if they do want to come and interact with you?
My website.
That website we've been chatting about. Um,
All the details are on there.
yeah,
And Jackson Therapy. It's
and
really
yeah, we'll pop it in the show notes in case anyone wants to go and check it out afterwards. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for coming on and
welcome. It's lovely. It's been lovely to chat to you.
yeah, it's been really nice to have a little catch up as well because obviously it's the saddest moment when a client sort of say stops working with us in a way like they're always in our ecosystem. We love to see how our clients' businesses develop, but it is a sad moment when they fly the nest, as me and Lee often say. So it's really nice to catch up with you and to hear like how you've got off to such a great start. I mean, it's music to our ears. It's exactly what we wanted for you and for you to have felt supported through that process. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us today.
Oh, thank you. It's been lovely seeing you.